In the small, quiet town of Ravenswood, where secrets festered like shadows in the corners, lived the Harringtons, a seemingly ordinary family with a dark past. 15 years ago, tragedy struck the family when their youngest daughter, Emily, went missing without a trace. The town mourned the loss, and the Harringtons lived with the heavy burden of guilt that lingered in the air. Late one ominous night, the phone rang in the Harrington household. The shrill ring echoed through the empty halls, causing Mr. and Mrs. Harrington to startle from their restless sleep. They stumbled down the creaking stairs, exchanging worried glances as they approached the ringing phone. Mr. Harrington hesitated for a moment before answering. "Hello," he mumbled, his voice thick with anxiety. A static-filled silence hung in the air for what felt like an eternity, and then a soft, haunting voice spoke on the other end. "Mom. Dad, it's me, Emily." The blood drained from their faces as they listened in disbelief. It couldn't be true. Emily was gone, lost in the shadows of that dark night so many years ago. Mrs. Harrington clutched the phone, her knuckles turning white as her mind raced with confusion and dread. "Emily? Is it really you?" Mr. Harrington stammered, his voice trembling. The voice on the other end continued, "You thought you could escape what you did to me that night, but you can't hide from the darkness forever." Chills ran down their spines as they recognized the truth in those words. The room seemed to grow colder, and a heavy silence settled over the Harrington household. They exchanged fearful glances, knowing that the past had come back to haunt them. Emily's voice grew colder, more sinister, as she recounted the events of that fateful night. The Harringtons were paralyzed, forced to confront the monstrous act they had committed in the name of a dark secret that had bound them together. As the chilling tale unfolded, a ghostly figure materialized in the hallway, a spectral silhouette that bore a haunting resemblance to the long-lost Emily. The figure approached the terrified parents, its eyes empty voids of darkness. "You can't escape the consequences," the ghostly Emily whispered, sending shivers down their spines. The room filled with an unearthly presence as the Harringtons realized the magnitude of their sins. The truth had risen from the shadows, and their daughter had become a vengeful spirit seeking justice for the unspeakable crime committed against her. The line went silent, and the ghostly figure disappeared into the shadows, leaving the Harringtons alone with the weight of their guilt. The air in the room was thick with remorse as the horrifying reality of their actions sank in. Ravenswood, once a town harboring dark secrets, now held the chilling tale of a girl who returned from the depths of the unknown to expose the darkness that dwelled within her own family. The Harringtons, haunted by their past, were left to grapple with the consequences of a night that had forever changed their lives. Days turned into sleepless nights for the Harringtons as the specter of their dark secret loomed over them like a perpetual storm. Shadows seemed to dance eerily around the edges of their vision, and every creak and groan of the old house sounded like a whispered accusation. Haunted by guilt and fear, the Harringtons began to unravel. Sleep-deprived and tormented by nightmares, they found themselves caught in a web of paranoia and despair. They dared not speak of the phone call or the ghostly apparition, but the unspoken truth festered within the walls of their home. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across Ravenswood, the Harringtons received an ominous letter. It was sealed with an otherworldly insignia, and its contents sent shivers down their spines. The letter spoke of a reckoning, a price to be paid for the sins committed against Emily. The Harringtons were compelled to revisit the scene of their crime, the desolate woods where they had buried their guilt along with their daughter. As they approached the eerie clearing, the air grew heavy with an unnatural stillness. The moon cast an eerie glow on the gnarled trees that stood witness to their dark secret. In the heart of the clearing, a spectral figure materialized once again. Emily's ghostly presence stood before them, her eyes burning with an otherworldly intensity. The letter in their trembling hands had guided them to this moment, a moment of reckoning. "You cannot escape the darkness that binds us," Emily's voice echoed through the night. "The time has come to face the consequences." The ground beneath the Harringtons' feet trembled as tendrils of shadow slithered around them, tightening like a noose. The ghostly figure raised her hand, and the very earth seemed to respond to her command. The soil in the clearing shifted and churned, revealing a ghastly sight, the decaying remnants of their long-buried secret. The Harringtons recoiled in horror as skeletal hands clawed their way to the surface. The ghostly figures of Emily's presence were joined by other lost souls, victims of the darkness that had consumed the Harrington family. The ethereal courtroom had convened, and the judgment was passed upon the guilty. The Harringtons were condemned to an eternity of torment, haunted by the restless spirits they had wronged. As the earth swallowed them whole, their agonized screams echoed through the haunted woods, a chilling reminder of the price one must pay for the sins that refused to stay buried. Ravenswood, once a town shrouded in secrets, whispered of the night when the Harringtons faced the consequences of their malevolent act. The desolate woods bore witness to the unending torment of the guilty, and the chilling tale became a cautionary legend, a reminder that the past, no matter how deeply buried, has a way of clawing its way back to the surface. In the aftermath of that fateful night, Ravenswood seemed to exhale a collective sigh, as if the town itself had purged the darkness that had long lingered within its shadows. The once haunted house of the Harringtons stood silent, its windows reflecting the pale light of a dawn that promised a new beginning. The townsfolk, unaware of the supernatural events that had unfolded, sensed a change in the air. The atmosphere lightened, and the weight of a long-buried secret seemed to lift from the hearts of those who had lived in the shadow of the Harrington family tragedy. Years passed, and the tale of the haunted Harringtons became a distant memory, fading into the whispers of local folklore. The house, now abandoned, gradually succumbed to the relentless march of time, its halls echoing with the ghosts of a past that refused to be forgotten. Ravenswood, having weathered the storm of its dark history, continued its quiet existence. Yet, in the stillness of the night, some claimed to hear faint echoes, a soft breeze carrying distant whispers of a girl's laughter and the rustling of leaves in the haunted woods. The spirits, once tormented, seemed to find solace in the quietude of the town. As for the Harringtons, their names became synonymous with the cautionary tale that echoed through generations. The memory of that night served as a somber reminder, a reminder that the consequences of one's actions, no matter how deeply buried, could resurface when least expected. And so, Ravenswood embraced its newfound serenity, guarded by the gnarled trees and the hallowed grounds of the haunted woods. The chilling tale of a girl who went missing and returned from the depths of the unknown became a story told in hushed tones, a story that warned of the darkness within and the price one might pay for sins that refused to be buried.
Like, subscribe, and click on notifications that allow you to stay up to date with the news and not miss the video from the channel, where there will be many more horror stories.